The Diary of a Harlequin is proudly brought to you by Charles Stanley Wealth Managers, official player welfare partner of Harlequins. If you're looking to start your investment journey, then Charles Stanley has lots of tips and ideas on how to secure your financial future. Welcome to the Diary of a Harlequin. I'm your host, Joe Yates-Round, and today we're speaking to Harlequins forward James Chisholm. Former World Under-20s Player of the Year and with over 100 appearances for Harlequins, he was instrumental in the now infamous comeback win against Bristol on the way to the 2021 Premiership title. James is a favourite amongst fellow players and supporters as a previous winner of Player and Players' Player of the Season. He's also captained his boyhood club in the past and is South West London's foremost Sean Dyche lookalike. A businessman and entrepreneur as well as a first-class rugby player, welcome to the Diary of a Harlequin, James Chisholm.
Hello.
Thanks for coming and chatting to us today. Look, I guess there's plenty of places we could start from that intro, but Sean Dyche. I mean, the resemblance is uncanny, but the great man came to the training ground, didn't he? What was that like? Was it a bit like double take, like looking in a mirror?
Yeah, he actually did say to me, "You look nothing like me," which was really upsetting.
That's hard.
But I think especially at the moment with it being November, at the time of this being filmed, I do look a lot like him. There's no denying that. But it was great. He was awesome, very down to earth, a really interesting guy. Obviously took time out of his schedule, which is mental in their sport, to come and see us, and it was amazing.
Was it like, it kind of came for a bit of fun, didn't it? Was it across social? Didn't you stand on the touchline at one of our games wearing a Burnley suit? How did that come about? Did you guys reach out to him? Did he kind of make contact? We just set it up.
I think the November before, which would have been months and months before, obviously, dressed up, had the tie on. We raised a lot of money that year, as we usually do as a club, which was great. And to be honest, I have no idea who got in touch with him. I think at the time it was Paul Gustard, and he really enjoyed getting different people in to come and speak to us and swapping ideas. So I think it was kind of his idea to go after him and get him in. And he obviously did, and I think the coaches had a really big meeting, swapped loads of ideas, asked lots of questions, and then we had a Q&A with him as well, which was amazing. But I had to keep it quiet for 3 weeks, which was very hard. I was the only player that knew, and I was buzzing, and I had to keep it quiet. And then he turned up, and what you see on the video is so genuine. It's like everyone was shocked, and it was incredible.
So are you a football fan as well as a rugby fan, or is it more just the resemblance?
Not at all. So lots of, whenever I've had when I had short hair or shaved head or did Movember, people would send me pictures of Sean Dyche doing interviews and so on, and be like, "You're on TV," and say it's uncanny, and then just went for it one year because I had the goatee anyway. So I was like, I'll just shave my head and try and look like him. I watched football very much kind of behind whoever's watching it on the sofa. If my brother was watching it when we lived together, Tom Lauday now. So I don't really know what's going on, but I look like Sean Dyche, so it doesn't matter.
That's all you need, right? That's all you need. Right, okay. So that aside, you are also quite a good rugby player and have made a passable career at it. But obviously you talked about, your brother Ross obviously also played for Quins. I know Ali, your other brother, also plays rugby as well. Was that just always the pathway for you and your brothers growing up, that it was always going to be rugby?
Yeah, I think so. I think because Ross is 4 years older than me, from quite a young age, you had somebody playing a good level of rugby. Right. We loved it. And at Minis, you're not thinking, I'm going to play this professionally. You're kind of dreaming of playing for England and watching it on TV. But with Ross being that much older than me, by the time I was 12 and starting secondary school and everything else, he was trying to play for England age groups and Quins Academy, and you're like, I want a piece of the action there. And we all, like I said, we all loved rugby. We loved sport. Yeah. So it was just easy for us to try everything, give it everything a go. And then rugby was definitely my favourite. I think it was their favourite as well. So just went for it.
But interesting, there's two brothers that you've got. One that played in the back line and one that plays in the back row. How did that come about? Was that just physical attributes, or was that both of you have different preference for what you want to do on the rugby pitch?
A bit of both. I think I was a big kid, whereas the other two were tall and they were just beam poles, to be honest. And then they kind of stopped growing when we got a bit older, height-wise. But I was a lot bigger than them. I played 12 until I was about 15.
Wow.
Which was great for my development.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got pushed forward, which, to be fair, I loved. Like, I love the contact element of our sport. So it always kind of made sense. It was like, I'll go and play there at some point.
Yeah.
I remember we'd go up the fields or up the local rugby club and we'd practice kicking, and those two would be great because they were fly halves, they wanted to kick, and I was rubbish. So it just made sense.
Fine. And so what does that journey look like? So you're 12 and you're seeing Ross kind of making those strides in the Quins Academy age group rugby. You said that kind of really spurred you on. For people listening, how do you then get made a part of the academy? Is that just playing and trying to get spotted and trying to get picked up?
Yeah, I think it's really different now. Like, the opportunities that you have to kind of be seen or be invited to something is a lot bigger. Like, the net seems far wider.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's just a lot of opportunity. Whereas back then you got put forward by your school, you went to like a trial, it was called the Schools of Rugby then, and it was split, our catchment was split, Sussex and Surrey. So you just do it as the kind of the Sussex guys, say it'd be 20, 30 people when I was like 12. And then it changed when you were 16, you'd be invited to Surrey Sports Park where the first team trained and now train.
Yeah.
And you do holiday camps, Monday nights, 2 years of that, and then joined up. So it was the same pathway as Ross. My brother was in the Academy Schools of Rugby my other brother was in the Schools of Rugby as well. So we were all there Monday night for a period and just wanted a piece of the action, yeah.
And I guess that's probably, for you, having your brothers also involved in that probably just felt quite normal, that's what you would do. That would be kind of the next evolution of rugby. It wasn't like you were treading new ground and be like, right, I'm going to go against the grain here and do something like, oh, just carry on doing what the family's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd get dragged to everything anyway, so you were doing it whether you liked it or not. But we did so many sports that we would all do the same things.
Right.
And I hated swimming,
right,
but I had to go. So it was either sit in the I don't know what you call it, on the viewing gallery with my mum and read books, or go swimming and show swimming.
Yeah. And you said rugby was your favourite. You mentioned swimming. Were there other sports as well that you would like throw yourself into and want to play?
Well, like I said, we did everything. I really enjoyed football. I was rubbish, but I really enjoyed it. But we did, cricket. The local cricket club I went to was great fun. Again, I didn't excel at it, but I really liked it. Yeah. We swam. We all did gymnastics when we were really young. I actually did trampolining until I was 15, which I really enjoyed. But there was kind of flicked a switch when I was kind of 15, 16 of like, I want to play rugby. So that's what everything is going into. So all other sports kind of fell away. Yeah. As they do.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of how you're trying to develop it. That's how it works.
And so then, as you say, 15, 16, you kind of made that decision that you're going all in on rugby. You've got Ross, I guess, who's making a success of it, kind of 4 years ahead of you, kind of, again, still in the early stage of his career. But you've been playing 12 and then suddenly you're now going, right, I'm being pushed forward. You've got a new set of skills to learn and different than to your brothers now. Was that quite daunting almost, being put into the other half of the team? You're no longer with the backs, you're with the forwards.
Seems like a long time ago now. Yes and no. My skill set wasn't necessarily right to play in the backs.
Right, okay.
I always thought I had quite good hands. I could kick just about. My decision making wasn't great. So it made sense for me to be pushed forward because when I had the ball in my hands, I found I was a good ball carrier. I was quite physical. Yeah. I could get the ball forward. So it made sense to get on the ball more, run off 9, so on and so on. But there was a lot to learn, rucks, contact in those sort of tighter areas, mauls and so on. But to be honest, when you're 15, 16, that kind of stuff's not that important.
Yeah,
that's why it was really good. I played 12 because the ball goes through your hands. You've got to practice different stuff, and you've got to be good at your basic skills. Which, to be honest, is why I then moved forward. But it puts you under different pressure.
Yeah, but you've also got that foundation then, I guess, before rather than just from an early age being like, right, you're just a big physical unit, so I just want you to go and smash stuff. You've had to maybe you didn't have the natural talent in the same way to stick it out as a back kind of longer term, but you had that grounding, which probably stands you in good stead now.
Precisely, I think so. I think any kids that play the sport and they run it slightly differently now with the way they do scrums and so on. Like, you should try and play every position if possible. Put your skills under different pressures and try and learn everything. Everyone should be able to, pass, catch, kick, and understand the very basics of contact elements, line out, scrum. Just because you never know. You never know how your body's going to change, what your mentality will be when you're a man or a little bit older as a teenager.
And that's interesting, isn't it, in sport, that particularly as an English way of looking at it, maybe a British way, but I do think it's an English way of looking at it, that everyone should stick to their own lane, right? That the forward should do the forwardy stuff, the back should do the back stuff, the 10 should do the kicking, and that should never change. Whereas you look at New Zealand as an example, like over the years, that they've got players all over that team that can throw an offload or do something outrageous. And that's not a special bit of skill. They're just like, well, that's just the best way of getting out of that situation. Whereas in the UK, and particularly in England, we're like, oh, he's got good hands for a big man, and that sort of stuff really prevails. Do you think that that's changing as rugby continues on its professionalism journey, that you're expected to be able to do more in whatever position you're playing in?
Yeah, I think rugby, even over my career, has changed a lot. And the pressure on people to be good at the basics and understand the game and make better decisions is slowly getting more and more, which is great. Yeah. You want, like I said, all 15 players to be able to do everything. Yeah. However, time pressure, so on, people ultimately won't be able to do certain things. Yeah. And the physical nature of the sport, you need one or two lads just to be physical freaks and go out there and get stuck in. Yeah. But like you said, it's all about the mentality of, the governing body, the national team, and then the players and coaches throughout the whole country. Like, I'm sure if you what you hear is you turn up to New Zealand and they're not necessarily doing scrums from an early age, but they're doing loads of catch pass, trying to get the ball, lots of touches through the hands and making good decisions. Whereas here you might focus on something slightly different. Yeah. It's not necessarily wrong, it's just
a different way of doing it.
The product at the moment at international rugby in particular, and here at Harlequins, it's a bit more exciting when everyone can pass, everyone's a threat, the ball's going wide, going through every set of hands. So the pressure to do that will hopefully encourage a better style of play.
Well, fingers crossed. And go back to your career then. So you're in the academy, you're establishing yourself. I mentioned it in the introduction there, under-20s World Player of the Year. What was that period like for you, kind of arriving on the scene almost with that pressure, but also earning that accolade at that point in your career? Did you feel like that was something special at that point, I guess?
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate to play a lot of age groups from kind of 16 all the way to under 20s. I was always involved in that setup and the development and the pressure you put under, and you're rubbing shoulders with the best guys at your age, which is really, really helpful. I think, unfortunately, looking back, it's not necessarily a regret, but I floated a lot at that time. Oh, okay. I think the club was very much as your individual responsibility to better yourself. Interesting. And for me, at that time, that didn't necessarily work. But then you'd go to the age group stuff and it'd be very, very different. So that influence on me as a player was really good, really, really good. And going to those camps, especially as an under-20, you'd go from being bottom of the pile, holding a bag, being allowed to float a little bit, which, was ultimately my fault. Yeah. Or the choice that I made, to then going and being centre of attention, pressure on you.
Right, yeah. You've got to perform.
Improve, perform, and you get to play. And it's like, 10 games a season. There's quite a lot of games playing for your country, which is awesome. And then I played with really good players in 2 really good teams in the 2 under-20s years. And it was great. We won a World Cup, a Junior Six Nations, and then at the end of it all, I won that award, which was just incredible. I stole it off. Who did I steal it off? Akira Ioane, I think I stole it off. And he was great. Yeah. But
not as good as James Chisholm.
There you go. Yeah. Where's he now? I think he's played for his country. I think he has. Yeah.
But interesting you say that, and it's a good bit of, I guess, self-reflection and self-awareness that at that point that culture of it's on you to do the extra work. But what, you're 18, 19 years old, right? I don't think there may be a few people that are listening going, well, when I was 18, 19, I was super driven, I was doing all the extras. But I think most 18, 19-year-olds are kind of, if you're not getting sat on to do something, it's easy to drift and kind of lose your way. Do you think, and you can't go back and rewrite history, right, that had there been a different ethos maybe, or you maybe approached it differently, that things would have worked out differently? Or actually do you think that some of it is just a product of the work you put in regardless of where it goes?
I think there's a small element in rugby as a sport of you have to be patient, especially in certain positions. You have to, do your gym work and get slightly bigger and stronger because the nature of the sport and the collisions and the brutality of it.
Yeah.
There is an element of that. But I think when we were younger, we looked at it's like, I'll finish my academy time, and when I'm 22, I'll probably play.
Right.
And rather
it was almost
than
I've got to do these 3-4
I've just got to
years.
tick a box, get through it, and then I'll play. When your Marcus Smiths, your Caden Murleys, can't think of any off the top of my head, but they were make it happen.
Yeah.
And it's in our 20s year group, Mario Toji was the same. He's like, make it happen. And he played in the Premiership, was 19. Yeah. And you're looking at it, it's like, oh, he's just lucky. And, they've had a few injuries. And it's like, no, he worked incredibly hard and made that happen. And if I went back now, you would do that.
Yeah.
You would do your extras, you would get stuck in, you wouldn't behave like an 18-year-old in a man's environment. You would be consummate professional, diligent, and work incredibly hard to make that opportunity happen.
But as you say, that's an interesting, just developmental point, that actually you're then entering an adult environment when you're 18 years old, but expected to perform at the same level as someone who's maybe got 10 years experience. Actually, in other, I can't think of another profession where actually you would have to do that, where you'd kind of enter as an entry-level job and suddenly you're in a meeting making decisions with the chief executive. It just wouldn't happen. And yet that's kind of the situation young rugby players find themselves in. Do you think that, and we're seeing it now, you've got a mix of people that have come through academies, people that have been away and done university and come into rugby kind of later. Do you think that the squad is better equipped now with a greater variety of experiences rather than less people kind of going, oh, actually that 18 to 22 block is when you just got to pay your dues, and then at 22 you'll play, as you said?
I think it's great to have people from different backgrounds, like you said, whether that's the school they went to, university, blah, 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 or if they're foreign, or if the systems obviously in the Super Rugby nations are very different and so on. I always think that's great in any work environment or any environment I've been involved in, which isn't many.
Yeah.
And I think your experiences obviously shape the individual. It's just young men coming into this environment may not have experienced anything like this before, and it's get on board and get on with it, or you might be left behind. And I think lots of, especially me, didn't have that kind of pressure, but I think now it's a bit more. There's more staff for a start to be on you and push you. Which we all train together, which we've always done. But there's the development of loan clubs, the link with London Scottish, that kind of stuff. So I think we're much better equipped, and you hear it at other clubs. I think it's much better equipped to get more out of their young men coming into this environment. But ultimately, it's hard. It's a professional rugby club. No one's going to hold your hand the whole way. No. You need to decide that it's what you want to do and work for it. And like I said, make that opportunity happen. But the short answer to your question is it's great to have people from all kinds of backgrounds that have had different routes in. I do really think that is helpful.
And then look, we're sat here talking to you now. You've made over 100 appearances for Harlequins. You're a Premiership winner. So this isn't some story of what might have been, right? Like you put the work in and you've got the rewards from that. But kind of did that 2021 Premiership win, one in the manner that it happened, right, obviously meant so much. You heard from a lot of people on this podcast and just kind of generally involved with the club of how special that was. But for you, having broken through, I guess, at a time after that big high of 2012, but there was then a fallow period almost of results on the pitch. Did that kind of sharpen your senses even more when there was a sniff of that final in 21?
You said a lot there. I did. A lot to think about. I think to start from one of the things you said, I came in when if we're very honest, we were on a bit of a decline in terms of consistency in the Premiership and where we finished, which I think coming in, I thought professional sport and professional rugby would be different to what it was.
Really?
And like I said, the 20s stuff was great for me. And we had an awesome group. We had amazing players. I mean, here we had an awesome group, amazing players. And Connor had obviously done something incredible. Connor O'Shea, that is, to get that team to that 2012 final, be so consistent and then win.
Yeah.
But I think, like everything, all good things come to an end. You know, he obviously then went off to Italy and the squad changed slightly and rugby had changed in the way you play it. So I came in at a time where I was a bit like, oh, this like you said, the fallow period, which looking back was good and bad. It was bad in the sense of we didn't perform that well. It was frustrating to finish, you know, 4th, then 7th, then 5th, then 10th. We were just so inconsistent. However, I got to play a lot.
Yeah.
I played a lot when I was 22.
Yeah.
And I got an opportunity for a few injuries and I played loads. Would I have played at a top 4 club or a top 2 club? You just don't know. So I, in some ways I'm really, really glad, but it was very frustrating.
Was it tough being in that environment when I imagine you'd kind of seen, particularly with your brother as well, and kind of watching as you're coming through the academy that Quins are on the up, they're lifting the Premiership, and you're like, oh, I'm going to break into this group and we're going to be pushing on, to then suddenly find yourself in that environment where success wasn't coming, and it was that inconsistency.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough coming in as, like I said, bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
That was odd because you think most of the lads that join us are playing in their first 15 at school. Rugby's a massive deal at the schools that they will be playing for, so on and so on. To then come in at the bottom and be expected to work incredibly hard, be pushed, not be the best player, that's a shock to some people. And I was a bit up and down. I floated a bit, like I said. You got the 20 stuff, like I said, which was great for me, which was helpful. And those periods were incredibly frustrating because, I mean, most players look at it and will often think that they're right and their opinion's the best and they think they could fix it. And I'm probably no different. You do look at it sometimes, oh, we should do that differently and this differently. And if you're 19, you're not going to the coach's office and saying that.
No.
Because you have no right to. It is what you think. You may have a right to, but you have no right to. And like I said, when I was 22, I played loads, and it was like, I'm playing, we're not winning very much, but I'm playing loads. This is great.
Yeah.
And that's how I looked at it, and that's not necessarily a good thing, but I felt like I was getting better. I played a lot. It felt like the coaches loved me. I really enjoyed playing for Harlequins, and I think at the Stoop we were really, really good.
Yes,
and like Friday night at the Stoop's amazing. I got to play, so on and so on. So you're a bit like, I'm pretty happy with what's going on. It's just then when you get a little bit more settled and your priorities change from I want to play a lot to I want to win, and I don't want to be, you know, the gallant loser and this, that, the other. So yeah, it was, as it went on, it got a lot more frustrating. And the inconsistency, which we've struggled with for a long time, was very frustrating. But then even now, your priorities change. I've been injured a lot. Yeah. So it's like, I'd be quite happy just to, would I be quite happy just to play and we not win that much? You don't know. It's not a great thing to say.
No, but also
your priorities just change. And then once you play 4 or 5 games, you're like, no, I want to win.
But it's interesting, I guess, as you say, when you've been through that period with injuries, that actually the priority is, you can't control winning on the Saturday, but you can control getting your body in a position that you can play on the Saturday. So you're like, you need to bring those goals back in, and then it kind of opens back out again. Do you think that some of that success that we had with that Premiership win after the change in coach, we've heard from a few guys on this podcast as well, was that shift to being very player-led, not in terms of exclusively, but almost going, oh, blimey, if we're getting some of the reins back here, we really have to put the pressure on our shoulders to deliver, because ultimately if it goes wrong, there's no one else to kind of turn to and go, well, as you say, I may disagree with it, but hey, I'm just following orders here. Whereas actually, like, oh no, this is what we want, this is what we think.
Yeah, I think the player-led doesn't necessarily work all the time. I think at that time it did, because Paul Gustard was a fantastic coach. He just wasn't necessarily the right guy for the job he was in.
Interesting.
And then lots of those systems and basic skills and fundamentals we had and we used. It's just then a bit more freedom. And I believe if you're given responsibility, you take responsibility.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're not given it, you can't take it. And that's where people sit in the change room and complain and moan about this, moan about that. And if you give somebody that responsibility, they have to either get on with it or sack it off and go do something else, I guess. And you look at that squad, we had an international front row. We had an international second row ran the line out. We had Matt Simmons, who, in my opinion, should have been an international second row, running the defensive line out. You had Marcus and Andre, that international axis, Ben Tapwai, James Lang. You go through the team, then you add in the youngsters in the back three that were just incredibly exciting. It's people grabbed a hold of it and made it work. And a lot of it was led by us with some fantastic systems and structures we'd been coached.
Yeah.
So it really is striking a balance because we've moved slightly into coach-led now, but it's working.
Yeah.
And then your leaders lead. They don't have loads of pressure on them because they don't have to do that much in the sense of,
they're not,
cool playing, running this, running that, but there's pressure on them to lead and they have certain responsibilities, but the structures and systems, like, we're going to do this at this time for this reason, get on board. Okay, that means I can put my energy elsewhere.
Yeah. And where do you sit in the group now then, as someone that's kind of come through the academy? As you said, that was a few years ago now, you're a senior established part of this squad. Do you enjoy the role that you have in the team at the moment of being experienced, but not necessarily in that core leadership group, but also not so inexperienced that you're kind of looking on in awe or asking lots of questions? You're like, I know my job and my role. Yeah,
I think, I think I mentioned maybe before, your experiences very much shape you. I've experienced a lot at this only really at this club.
Yeah.
Well, I've only been at this club, obviously been age groups and loan clubs and experienced stuff there and different environments, but it very much shapes you. So now it's got to a place of, I want to play a lot and I want to win. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't matter necessarily stepping on people's toes to do that, or saying something where if you're a young man, you wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying going in and arguing with people. I'm just be like, that was wrong at this time because we said we'd do this.
Yeah.
Don't do that next time. And I think you unfortunately, for me personally, that's taken a long time to learn. And I think I sit in a place, I don't play international rugby, so I'm not right up there with those guys. I'm not necessarily in the leadership group, but I feel like I'm a good leader in the way I go about it. And I'm not prepared to accept mediocrity, which I also think is a really good thing to be.
Yeah.
And I think my place in the squad is sometimes just get on with it. Just be quiet and get on with it. And I'm okay with that. Yeah. I think everyone wants to be captain. Everyone wants to play international rugby. Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to score those tries like Tyrone in the corner against Newcastle and be, the poster boy. But ultimately, I know what my role is, and I'm okay with that. I'm very happy to be who I am and get on with things. And like I said, I've been over the last 3 seasons, I've been injured a lot. And at the moment now, I just really want to play as much as I can and soak it up. And I hope and feel like I've got the respect of most of the lads and the coaches and the fans. And I want to be a part of this team because I feel like we can do something special again.
You know what? I don't think that's in any question at all from fans, from coaches and players. You see the way that you play. I think one thing that you said there that really struck a chord with me is that, and I'll paraphrase you probably badly, was I'm not willing to accept mediocrity. And I think that the outcome is one thing, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you talk about mediocrity, you mean as in someone happy to sit in the middle, right? Someone happy to go, that was a fine session. That was fine. Did I do anything wrong? No. Did I do anything amazing? Also no. Am I fine? Yes. And does that sort of attitude, and I don't imagine there's many of those people involved in the playing group at the club, does that really bug you, get under your skin, people that have that sort of approach to rugby, certainly anyway? Yeah,
definitely. It definitely does. I can be a bit grumpy and a bit miserable sometimes, and I'm very aware of that. But I want us to be good, and I want to train hard, and I want to do this, and I want people to do the right thing. If I'm necessarily, I may be wrong. I may get into huddles and be completely wrong.
Yeah.
But I'd rather, say if I've got a strong opinion, say it. I think the thing with, I suppose, every workplace and this sport is the same and this place is the same. Everyone's goal is going to be different. Like I said, when I was 20, I just wanted to play.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have minded. I would have.
Yeah.
I would have minded, but I wouldn't have minded if we lost every week, if I played 80 minutes every weekend, because you're like, I'm playing all the time.
Well, you're contributing
This
as
is
well.
great.
Yeah.
I'm part of the team, so on and so on. Obviously, losing 4 on the bounce, you're like, I hate this. This is rubbish. I want to leave. But some people will just be here because they need a job. Some people will just be here because it kills the time. Some people just want to play. Some people, they just want to play once in the Premiership, tick that box. I'm a success, and they are.
Yeah.
And they are a success. However, there's certain standards that are set that you need to adhere to, and everybody, if you can get everyone to that level, it doesn't matter what their motivations are. If they uphold the standards that we set, great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does annoy me. In answer to your question,
a good
sorry,
diplomatic bit before they're like, no, yeah,
they do, yeah.
It annoys me. Yeah,
Loads of them do.
So that's kind of you on the rugby pitch, and conscious you're very much still on that journey. There's a lot of rugby still to be played for James Chisholm, so we don't need to turn our attention to life after rugby just yet. But away from rugby, you are, I said at the start, businessman, entrepreneur. You've got your food business, Chocky Nut Pot. Talk to me about that. Like, how did that come about? Like, why? I guess would be my question.
Yeah, it was. It's honestly been great. It's been so helpful to have something going on outside of rugby. To be honest, my other brother Ali, who I lived with for a long, long time, he was very conscious of the food he would eat. He went to the gym a lot before work.
Yeah.
He would take loads of snacks and lunch and so on, like most people do to work. But he just felt like there was something missing of like something that was tasty and filled with protein.
Yeah.
So he just kind of made this concoction one day, played with it, put them in pots. His work colleague sat next to him who was a vegetarian, was like, what is that? He was like, I just made it yesterday. It's vegetarian. Would you like to try some?
Yeah.
And he loved it. And he was like, can you bring me one tomorrow? And then that was that. He came home from work and was like, I think we could sell these. And I was like, nah, we won't be able to. And then we just went from there. And it's been great. Like that was probably 4 years ago. So it's taken a long, long time to build it slowly and learn. We've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to, because it might sound silly. You just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So ultimately you got to make mistakes, or you got to ask people in the industry, or you've got to learn this and learn that. So it's been great. And we really believe in it, which is also great.
That's a big plus if you believe in it.
Big time.
So you say kind of it's taken 4 years. What does that 4 years look like in terms of setting the business up, like getting it off the ground, and ultimately kind of where is it now and where do you kind of see it going?
Yeah, so Ali, like I said, made them for work. We made some for the club, and people tried it, and you toy with the size of the pot, how much is in there, can we bump the protein up, can we reduce the this, the that. So that's kind of the starting point. Then it was like, can we design a pot that looks cool?
Yeah.
And that, again, has taken us a long, long time to come to something that we're really pleased with. COVID got in the way of a lot of our stuff. We had a summer planned with loads of events, loads of kind of dishing it out, getting feedback, proof of concept, basically, to tick that off and be like, this could work. So we've had to postpone all of that for about a year and a half. And then again, kind of post-COVID, it's been a slow build to try and get into your supermarkets or gyms or so on. And we're working very hard at the moment to try and make that happen. But we've gone through another redesign, trying to improve the shelf life, which has gone really well. Nice. But it's the same again. You'll turn up to an industrial kitchen or an expert in food preservation. They'll be like, have you tried this? And you'll be like, what's that then? Have you tried gas flush? Can't even say it. And be like, what's that then?
Yeah.
Wow. Or sealing it, or this or that. And you just, go through various things, see what will work for our product and go from there. But it just takes time.
Amazing. But it's that willingness and openness to learn. As you say, don't know what I don't know. So I don't know what gas flush is, but tell me, and then we'll see if it's good.
Yeah, precisely. And I think, unfortunately, you have to make mistakes, and we've made a lot.
Yeah.
It's just we have taken baby steps. We've taken our time, so it's been fine. Which, for me, who never worked in a proper business or a normal 9 to 5, it's been so interesting to learn loads of that stuff, to see into that industry, that the food industry, but also, the wholesale industry, marketing, design, and so on. It's been fascinating, and you learn a lot.
Yeah, is that something that you think, well, did you think before your brother's mate at work said that's good, can have another one, that you would have ever gone into the food production industry, to call it that?
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all. I think it's one of those things we've been forced to learn about it because we're trying to get into that industry.
Yeah.
I think I didn't really have a plan for a long time post rugby, and to be honest, I don't have one now, but it's still very fluid. I could still see myself ending up in a couple of different places. So to learn about that industry was a bit of a necessity, but you never know. You never know. This product might go really well, and you might not want to be involved in it 9 to 5. You might go do something else and help someone else out, which would be great.
And you say you've kind of got an idea on life after rugby, but not a specific, this is the route. And I don't, you can share or not share. I'm not going to kind of pry too much into that. But how did you come to, maybe the couple or few ideas that you've got? How do you kind of whittle that down? Because I imagine it's a big world out there, right? When you've done, as you say, you've been at Harlequins, you played rugby, and then suddenly you're facing potentially another 20, 30 years of working after rugby. How do you even start to solve that problem, I guess?
To be honest, for most people, there's very few people that are very proactive just off their own back and at a young age, like, I need to prepare for this, because you just think you're invincible. You're going to play forever. I'm going to play until I'm 40. I'll be the first player who plays in the Premiership in his 40s. And it just doesn't work like that. I got knocked out when I was 22, had a bad concussion, and then I was like, this will end one day, so I need to start preparing for it. But I didn't have a plan at all. I didn't really like coaching, because the only coaching I did was, the holiday camps with young children, and it just wasn't really what I enjoyed. Then I coached the Sussex men's team, absolutely loved it.
Really?
So now I do a bit of coaching, amateur coaching, and I'd like to, whether I'd want to do that professionally, but I'd like to go up levels and see how far I can go. I'm also doing a course for preparing for a coaching role in a school, which, again, not sure I want to do that, but tick it off the list and see. I did a degree when I was 25, which was a shock. Not being at school for seven years, like that was tough. But again, ticked it off the list. Again, it wasn't necessarily, I enjoyed aspects of it, but it not necessarily what I enjoyed.
You said you did a degree. What was the degree in?
Degree was in leadership and management, but it was based on your workplace.
Oh, okay.
So it's for people in full-time employment. It was online, distance learning, and it was great. Like, lots of it was boring. like everyone's degree. Some of it was rubbish, and I hated it. However, some of it was fantastic, and you could apply it to our workplace, which was so interesting. It's like, oh, that's why we do that, and that's why we do this. But we're missing a trick with
XYZ.
Which was great. And you'd write your reports and your assignments based on your workplace, which was great. So I sent a few things to Laurie, which he hasn't actioned, which is quite strange.
Shame. No, we've got a file. It's the James Chisholm file. We're working through it step by step in the business. Oh wow, cool. So there's lots of different routes that you kind of mapped out there for work. But then what about life outside of rugby and outside of the business with your brother? Like, what fires you up, or what relaxes you? Are you someone that's consuming rugby 24/7, or actually when you're outside of the club environment you try to go, that's great, I'm just going to park that there because I love it, but ultimately that is work, so I need something else?
Yes, we've got a strange relationship with rugby because I love coaching. A bit up and down. I love coaching. Right. I coach at Farnham Rugby Club, and it's great. So I go pretty much every week. I do the odd bit at a school or the Harlequins under-18s or, whatever. So I do bits and bobs, which I love. I don't necessarily watch much rugby. I don't watch much international rugby, which is, the pinnacle and incredibly exciting at times, but it's not necessarily what I enjoy doing. Yeah. So I do try and get away from rugby as much as I can.
Yeah.
However, I do love the sport. I still love training. I still love playing. I love talking about it. So if you get me onto it, I will go for it.
Yeah.
However, I think it's really important to come away from it and have hobbies. I love doing nothing a lot of the time. I love just sitting doing nothing.
Yeah.
But as I've got a bit older, you do get a bit more proactive, and all the things we've spoken about kind of fuel that. However, I'm a lot more happy being on my own, going to a cafe, sitting and read a book, which if you asked me to do a few years ago, I'd be like, there's no way I'm doing that.
Well, as you said, you went swimming instead of reading a book when you were much younger.
Yeah, so, exactly. And I don't like swimming. So, love going out for food, love socialising, seeing my mates. And I just think that is incredibly important. But it's just a balance, isn't it, of enjoying yourself, trying to do things that are productive, and then obviously your work and career as well.
Yeah, and now that I'd reveal something that we were chatting about before we started recording, which is that you say you love cafes, but you're not a coffee man. You're not a coffee
Not
snob.
really.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. Are you're a cup of tea kind of guy?
Yeah.
What biscuit are you going with your cup of tea?
That is a great question.
Yeah,
we've waited 40 minutes for a good question.
You've got to lead into these things. You don't use the big guns early.
Yeah,
not everyone gets that question, but that's what I want to know.
Well, I love biscuits.
Great.
And I would probably have a good go at a packet of anything.
Really?
But love chocolate hobnobs.
Wow, there's a lot going on with the chocolate hobnob.
There's a lot. But we could be here for hours. I love custard creams.
Yeah.
And custard creams are small enough you could pin two together and dunk them.
Whoa, I've not done the pin two together. That might just be to do with the size of my hands versus the size of a professional player's hands. So 2 custard creams together dunked.
Yeah.
Are you dunking pretty much anything if you've got a cuppa on the go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You make the same mistakes, don't you? Some break off.
Yeah.
You need a spoon. You find what's the Scottish one called? Shortbread.
You're not dunking a shortbread. You're an animal.
Yeah, but you do it, and then you're like, why did I do that?
It's just crumbs.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And you wash the sugar off.
Yeah, that's true. It sweetens the tea, though.
Yeah, that's nice.
Are you a sugar in your tea?
I try to avoid sugar. I try to have sweetener, but that's supposed to be bad for you, isn't it? So,
you're avoiding sugar, but you're going with a chocolate hobnob. So I just let that sink
balance,
in for everyone.
Balance.
Yeah, balance.
The best thing about match days is I put sugar in my tea.
Really?
Yeah. Because you've got an excuse.
This I feel like is going to open a bit of a can of worms. But is it true that on a match day, like particularly after you've played, that kind of all bets are off on the food front?
Yeah.
So what is
free for all?
What is the dream, or not the dream? What happens after a match day when you've done when there's sugar in the tea, so you're already living?
Yeah.
But what do you go for? What's the spread for you after a game?
Well, post match, if we eat here,
there's
obviously like an option for like a dinner, which I do actually now struggle to eat after games.
Oh really?
But there's a dinner and then there's crumble. So if you're not hungry, you feel a bit just straight crumble.
Just straight crumble.
Crumble with custard on. So tick. But I love pizza.
Really?
I love pizza so much. So I would always eat pizza after games and then have some cookies or something.
Sounds fantastic.
But but it is one of them. Just like I've just played rugby. I could have played for the last couple of weeks. I've not played that much. I could have played for 5 minutes, and I'm still.
But you're like, well, but I'm getting the crumble.
I played, so I'm eating crumble, eating pizza, and doing whatever I want.
Honestly, I think when you said I love pizza, there was a genuine light in your eyes.
Yeah,
I've not seen yet and anything else. You do actually love pizza. For those listening on the audio version of this, find it on YouTube and watch the moment that James gets to talk about pizza, because it's a beautiful thing. So what are your extravagances then? Like what are you, aside from biscuits, if you're doing a packet in a sitting, I imagine that's taking a lot of disposable income.
Yeah.
But like what do you spend your money on? What are your extravagances in life?
It's a good question.
2 good questions now in the same podcast.
Wow, well done. I think, like I said, I like going out for food and drinks and stuff like that. So that is probably a big one. I love food. Like I love going out for food. Again, I've got to a place now where holidays are really important. So if I can, which is few and far between in the season, but if I can, I'll spend my money on that. And I think that's a really important thing to spend your money on. And then every now and then, I just buy stupid things.
Last stupid thing you bought?
Got a replica of Gimli's axe.
That is
in my living room.
That's brilliant.
Which is class.
What size are we talking?
Like pretty big.
Yeah?
Like probably my hip to my head. Like it's big.
That's big.
And then
That's a
the
big axe.
double bladed. It isn't real, so
No, that's good.
but
That's
it
for
can chop a
clarity.
can in half. Tried and tested.
Big Lord of the Rings fan then, or just axe fan?
Yeah, I mean I do like both, I think. I like Lord of the Rings, I like axes. So there
don't
you go.
know. Do you know what? This is going to be the hardest segue I've ever done in my life on this. How do I take I love Lord of the Rings, I love axes, into... do you find yourself having to save up for an axe purchase? Does that work? Was that... Imagine that was impulsive.
Yeah, so one of my mates who actually used to play here, Craig Trenier, he has Aragon's sword replica.
Right.
And he was like, you should get an axe. So I was like, I should get an axe.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. So what I did is I went on, and I'd never heard of this company. I went on Etsy.
Yeah.
And you can get anything pretty much. It was great. And he just linked me up to somebody that makes
He was like,
replica
let me
Lord
put
of
you
the
in touch with
Rings.
my axe man.
Yeah. And then I bought that axe. Yeah, that was very impulsive.
So
yeah.
Trenier's got Aragon's sword. You've
Yes.
got Gimli's axe. Who are you eyeing up for
Yeah,
the Legolas
see,
bow? You need the third.
Probably need to think about Luke Wallace for that with the hair, don't we?
Oh, he'd be a lovely.
And he's got
Legolas.
quite sticky out ears as well.
No comment.
But that's why he's got long hair.
Fine. But so I mean, there's probably enough for a whole Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
Who are the
We could-
hobbits?
I don't know. Who's little cuties? Marcus. He's a little cutie, isn't he?
Marcus Smith is Frodo in
Yeah.
James Chisholm's reworking of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I think
Wow,
that'd be
that's,
good. I'd watch it.
I told you at the start of the podcast it's likely to take a left turn. I didn't think we'd go to Middle Earth, but here we are.
Hey.
So with your expenditure, we'll go less away from the axe purchases, more towards the holidays and meals out. Do you find that you're now kind of someone that likes to save and budget for those sorts of things? Like, do you kind of plan that quite far in advance, or are you quite impulsive when you are making those decisions?
Yeah, I think it's important. You sit down and talk about it with the lads sometimes, and like some people just don't have a clue what they're doing in terms of where they put their money and this, that, the other. And it's, again, I've worked with a lot of helpful people, so it builds up and you save up, and then I know you've split your money in a certain way. It's like that's my kind of holiday fund at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it, and plan. I'm not great with budgets.
Yeah.
In the sense of like I can't see the numbers, so it'd
Right.
be like hotels this, the flight's going to be that. This is how much spending money you need, and then we're going to eat out at this place, which will probably cost this.
Yeah.
Whereas if you told me like put all those things together and just give me this much money, I'll be like, I'm not doing that.
You probably buy
I'll
an axe.
just do buy loads of axes. So sometimes I struggle with the
Right,
budgets,
okay.
but I think what's really good is I'm very happy to kind of go to a hostel or go a bit cheaper, but I also really like doing the nice stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I'll get on with it, which I think is a good trait to have.
Yeah, and I think also then prioritising spending on the experience maybe rather than like going all out on the hotel and then going,
Yeah.
oh, we didn't get to go to that restaurant, or we
Yeah,
didn't get to do
yeah,
that
yeah.
thing and make that memory.
I think once you're there, you want to do the things you want to do.
Yeah.
So I'd always now again, I'm so much better like planning it and be like, guys, we're going here.
Yeah.
Like look at the menu, look how much it is. If you're not keen, that's fine, but I'm going.
Yeah.
So
What was the last great place that you ate at?
wow, good question.
3 good questions.
Yeah,
Keeping a
wow,
tally.
here we go. I think there's actually a place in Guildford called Positano, which
Okay.
is great, like
Really?
like Italian place, run by
Pizzas?
Yeah,
Yeah.
loads of pizzas. It's run by Italian. I think they're I assume they're a family. they're all Italian. Most of them
Yeah.
Italian, and they're lovely, and it's great in there. So the Guildford Quins guys go quite a lot. That was probably the best place I've eaten at recently. And then abroad, we were really lucky with the time off we had, and I got to do a lot of traveling. I went to San Sebastian. The food there is incredible. Like incredible. A lot of like steaks, meats.
Yeah.
Lots of like they do little dishes. It was amazing.
Wow.
If you can ever go.
Go to San Sebastian. Go to where in Guildford?
Positano.
Positano's. Get a pizza. Right, so we've covered that place at Positano's in Guildford. Top 3 pizza joints in London or southeast. What are we saying?
Yeah. Another great question.
4.
This has to be in the trailer.
Yeah.
The pizza bit.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go quite rogue. Not many people have heard of it. There's actually a pizza van in Farnham called Vaporetta,
Okay.
which is awesome, which is so good. I actually genuinely think that's the best pizza I've had.
Wow.
In this country anyway, that is. That's probably up there in the top 3. Second one, just for sheer volume,
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay's pizza place, you know, the all-you-can-eat one.
Yeah.
That is class. The pizza's good.
Yeah.
And you can just keep it coming.
Volume,
I don't want the white-based one. Keep the pepperoni coming.
Got you.
The one in Battersea is cool. That's a nice one. And then there's a third one. I'm not sure. I like I've got one on my list in Hammersmith. I can't remember what it's called, but it's supposed to be really good.
Okay.
So just somebody Google that.
We'll Google that. And we'll put that in the show notes.
Can't remember.
Just
I
as
can't
the
remember
little
what it's
Easter
called,
egg.
but it looks that's on my list.
Okay.
So you've got 2 there, and then that's on my list.
And then I'd said 2 questions then on the back of pizzas.
Yeah.
Your go-to pizza order. What's the tried and tested?
Ham and mushroom.
Mushroom.
Farmhouse.
And then ultimate pizza. Like, what's the one either that you've had or that you think would be incredible to put? Are you like and everything on it, or are you sticking ham and mushroom to the ultimate as well?
I don't want loads of stuff on it. But to be honest, like, I've always been quite boring.
Yeah.
So I've always like margarita, and honestly, until I was like 24,
Wow.
it's like all I wanted. But now, I like a bit of like red onion.
Okay.
Like I said, a bit of ham and mushroom, maybe like a meatball on it or something. Nice. So just a mix, I think.
And where do you stand on pineapple on a pizza?
No, don't put it on there. Don't ever.
Ever. If someone puts pineapple on the pizza, that's...
I'd be disgusted.
What's
with them,
worse, mediocrity or pineapple on a pizza?
I think we both know the answer to that question, and it's pineapple on pizza.
Yeah. So give 50%, but just don't put the pineapple on the pizza and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine. Right, look, this has been a very interesting chat. I mean, anywhere that we've covered everything from pineapple on a pizza to a life-size replica of Gimli's axe, as well as your degree in management and leadership, I feel like we've covered all bases. Final one, then, to wrap up the recording, because we could stay and we'll probably have a separate conversation about
pizza,
biscuits.
yeah.
And
We'll do
pizza
another
after this.
podcast on pizza and biscuits.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's set up a new one. Is when that time comes, you said you're going to be the first player to play Premier Rugby in their 40s, so you got a few years left. When that time comes that you're going to hang up your boots and you'll look back on your career, what do you want your proudest memory to be, or what would you like your proudest memory to be of your rugby career?
I think I've got a couple of things, and one thing that's always been a part of me and who I am is I want to look back, or to be honest, I'd like other people to look back and be like, he was a good guy, like he was a good person, he worked really hard, and he gave it everything, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think in that order is important to me. And hopefully the people that I work with understand that, or would be like, oh yeah, I kind of get that.
Yeah.
That's a really important thing to me. And then secondly, in terms of rugby, if it all ended tomorrow, I would be very, very happy with what I've achieved, and the winning the Premiership at this club was amazing, because you just feel like I've done that. No one can take it away from me. So I feel like that it is just a massive thing for me, that one day I'll look back and be like, that was, at the time it was awesome, but you'll be like, wow. And the nature and how we did it, Istanbul, will hopefully just live on forever.
Yeah.
And then looking forward, it's the same kind of two things. I want to be that person, and then in terms of rugby, you want to win. Like, I want to win again. It'd be amazing. And what a story.
For sure. James, thank you very much for your
honesty,
the detail and the specificity around pizzas.
Yeah.
A great chat. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much.